would be horrible. Oh, here we go. I will record as well.
Yeah,
That's
let's
fun.
record.
Double recording.
Wow, Harry Knoppert, the octopus movement. So I have to say that thanks to Anya. Anya, if you're listening, you are the one who introduced us,
Anya.
and we appreciate that. And this is my second time meeting you, and I truly am intrigued about what got you where you are sitting right now today, based on what you shared with me last time when we chatted, and the very fact that your entire movement has the name Octopus, which is a very synchronous name, just considering the number 8. And then where we are heading next year is 2024, which is the numerology of number 8, and the tribe that you're making. So please, Perry, go ahead and introduce yourself. And my name is Shehnaz Soni, and I'm just having fun with Perry so we can get to know each other better.
Best intro ever. We're just having fun. I love that. Um, Introduction. Oh dear. Well, let me tell you the story why it's an octopus,
Okay.
because that's interesting. Um, I love the language of linear and non-linearity. That the world is so linear and our brain is so non-linear. And I was interviewing a group of multi-potentialites, and I also interviewed some polymaths, and also some people that call themselves jack of all trades, zebras, scanners, all these labels. Very interesting. Love these labels because I was reading books of Barbara Scherer, watching TED Talks, and like, what's going on? How can this relate to me? I'm a bit weird. They're weird. Um, they have a different approach. I like that. Yeah, I can do a lot of things, not at the same time, but combined. I'm not just one specialist. I want to do multiple things. And at some point, I was I was being pushed in the corner of multi-potentialite dude, or I created that myself, or someone created it. I don't know. I was like, this doesn't feel good. I don't want to be the multi-potentialite dude because it feels so limited. Then you're just one thing, and I'm not. I'm not a multi-potentialite dude. I'm curious in what's going on with our brains and how we think and how it resonates and how it fits in our society. And I was talking to a group of people and I said, can we create a symbol for the curious misfit? Because that's what I thought was in common with all the people that I've spoken with and with myself, is that we're so curious and we're so weird. So curious misfits. What's the symbol? And then Christine in London, she said, "Oh, I always send an octopus emoji when I had a fun conversation with someone." So, oh, interesting. Why? She said, "I don't know. It's just it's just interesting." And then Haley in South Africa said, "Have you seen My Octopus Teacher?" She heard Octopus. Have you seen My Octopus Teacher? It's a documentary, and it's a documentary of a filmmaker who goes back home to South Africa. He's in a burnout. He's done with it, that linear system. Goes home, he goes for a swim every day in the cold water to get back to himself in his conscious mind, right? And he meets an octopus and he sees the octopus every day, and they create some kind of a friendship. And the whole movie is about his encounters with the octopus. And because of the filmmaker also being very non-linear, also questioning what am I doing here? What's happening? And then the encounter with the octopus: 3 hearts, 9 brains, 8 arms, weird DNA, change shape, change color. That same evening, when I watched that documentary, I thought, this is it. I'm going to call this the octopus movement, without knowing what I was doing. So there was not I wasn't sitting at my desk like I'm going to create a global movement and I'm looking for a name. No, I was just exploring and let it all be and let it happen. So there was no plan at all.
Right,
There's
but you know
still
what?
not a plan.
It's interesting how you came up with it. You actually heard other people, and then, you, of course, resonated, but your entire foundation was built based on the community mindset, because that mindset requires you, as a best leader you could be, is that you listen to everyone and then see where the convergence is. You see, so you kind of follow that. And, with the octopus, because I just love the fact that the three on the heart, nine on the brain, 3 to 9 is Tesla code 369. And to me, like when I look at octopus, I feel like it has so many tentacles, which is pretty much what we are, right? Because we have so many aspects of our existence, and like a hologram, that that is why, being weird, I am grateful that you actually select me as one of your community member, because that's what we all should be, curious and weird.
And we're not. You know, generally speaking, we're not. And that's the whole problem also. That's the other side, right? That's that when I was thinking, I did a hard reset in my life. I gave up everything. I became homeless. And I was thinking, what's going on here? Why isn't the system working? And I think one of the biggest reasons is because we're not curious. We're not curious about ourselves. We're not curious about how our own thinking operates. And therefore, if we're not curious about ourselves, how can we be curious about others? And then there, there comes a linear system immediately where we become very judgmental, and it needs to fit exactly like that. We don't want chaos. We want to have short and long term predictions. We want to know what will happen next week and next year. So everything stays calm. So we don't have to be curious about ourselves, how we handle stress or chaos or unexpected things. We don't want to go there because I think we don't want to go there because we're not curious
So
enough. We've never been trained that way at school.
I think that, no, not only, actually, you know what, you're right. It's interesting you use the word train, but it's more like we are trained not to. It's almost like, you are being kind of persuaded to stay in a box, because if you don't, then you get punished. If you don't, then you get kicked out of the school. So for the most part, if you think about it, it's almost like we're actively being persuaded to stay linear, because when you truly avail all your facet, you actually realize that how incredible you are, right? And nothing can stop you. And with that type of force comes a lot of unknown experiences. But to me, that's what we are here to do, is to play in this playground, right? And get to know our highest human potential. So that's actually one of my mission right now.
And you know what's interesting? Also linked to your mission and linked to the organization where you're working. During the space race, NASA did research about where can we find the most brilliant minds in innovative thinking, in creative thinking. And I have to find that publication and send it to you. To make a very long story short, 98% of a group of people were brilliant in their innovative thinking. And that group of people were 3 to 5 year olds. And then they checked with adults, and the percentage was 2% there. So adults was an average age of 31 years old, and they looked at the average. They tested 280,000 people. Just 2% were brilliant in their creative and innovative thinking. So I think we're all born as nonlinear thinkers, and we're all born very creative, very curious. Kids are curious. And then you go to school, and I have nothing against school, but then you go into a system that teaches you how to be linear, which also has very, very much interesting elements to it. So I'm not against linearity. but it should be more of a balance, I think. And
Balance, 100
and
percent.
that's not the case today.
Right. But, I mean, and the thing is, whatever statistic you're saying, I truly personally, of course, don't agree with it because I've never followed it, right? And I don't fall in any of the age span you're talking about. But the whole thing about the linear and non-linear, right? So our right hemisphere, which is all about creativity, non-linear, our left hemisphere is about linear. When I'm working on a missile where we have to make a decision and make sure that the missile gets launched because so it can do the work within a specific time frame, linear is definitely very important because it's so every second counts. And I think that that is where we need to be extremely good at is switching our gear depending on what we're doing. Like right now what we're doing, like you and I are talking, and we definitely want to be more non-linear because we want to make sure that we allow ourselves to be the multidimensional species we are, because it
Right?
serves
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
in this
Yeah,
context.
it's and it's so true, and it's and we need the linearity. And I was in a hospital with a brain infection. I think that was my spiritual awakening, to be very honest. Um, it was a very difficult time, and there was one doctor. This is such a good example in how nonlinear and linear go together. This neurologist, I went to a different hospital. That neurologist came in, he looked at me, and he said, "Your brain is infected. There's influenza in your brain. You need this, and let's solve this. And we take these steps." He was very nonlinear in his approach because he couldn't prove it. The problem with the other hospital was they couldn't find exact proof of the infection, so they
Mhm.
stopped medication and it became even worse. But for them,
Mm.
it was, but we need to see proof of that infection in order to proceed. And they couldn't find it, so they almost threw me into a mental institution because they thought I was losing it. But this neurologist, who's one of the best in the Netherlands, by the way, yeah, huge ego, and in his whole following went with him into my room with all the students, and he came in and was like, "That's it." And I said, or someone, I couldn't talk that back then, and some of the students asked him like, "How do you know? And where is this coming from?" And he said, "It's all irrelevant where it's coming from and how do I know? I know this is what it is. And first we need to make sure he survives this. And then we will see. This is what we need to do." And that's such a good example for me where linear and nonlinear thinking come together.
Yeah. And it's interesting you said about brain infection. When was it, by the way?
This was around 10 years ago.
Okay, good. So it's been a while for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I had something happen similarly in 2019 where if they wouldn't have taken me in the emergency room, I would have had my infection seep into, break the blood-brain barrier, and it would have killed me right away because it was already right at the point. So they actually, I was kicked out of three emergency room. The third one is where, I just went straight to them and I had a black ear because of the infection on my ear, and I just did this. I didn't talk. I just went to the front desk and I did this. And then the woman looks at my ear and she says, "Holy shit, I've never seen anything like that." Right away, she called and they took me in. And then they said, if I wouldn't have gotten in, I would have died. So
Wow.
yes,
Wow.
it's kind of interesting how, like, it's almost like I had to go through all that. Like, they kept kicking me out. Like, I know your story is different than mine, but similar in a way that they're not recognizing that this is an emergency that needs to be sorted, right? And they're treating it like, and in a way we were supposed to kind of had to fight for us to live here on earth because maybe we were thinking, you know what, I think it's time to check out. I don't
It
know,
was
right?
it was very close for me as well, and my ex-wife now, back then it was my wife. There's this beautiful movie on Netflix. It's called Brain on Fire. It's exactly the
Oh,
same
I love
story.
that movie. I've watched
It's
it.
my story. I've watched that movie without knowing what it was, and I was just on the couch like,
Wow.
let's see a movie. Brain on Fire, brain, interesting. And I watched that movie, and I saw her, and I was like, but I was there as well. She has a brain infection. That's it. And also with her, people were thinking that she was losing it. This was a mental problem. instead of an infection. I had exactly the same thing. They wanted to put me in a mental institution because they couldn't find proof of the inflammatory. It fascinating,
Yeah.
difficult, painful, very close to end of story as well, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting how we bring these experiences in our lives. So I really want to dive into, actually, I want to dive into this experience where you basically did something so nonlinear that you basically said, you know what, I want to just basically look at it from a whole different perspective, like not basically live in a house, all the basic thing, food, clothing, and shelter. That's part of our linear thing, right? If we want to make sure that we have the next meal, we can pay for our next meal, we can have a place to sleep, right? We can have a, like, we don't want to be on the road, right? I mean, that to me is a very fearful thing for a lot of people. And you actually almost kind of like dived into it. So please share me the trigger that took you in and the trigger that took you out.
The trigger that took me in was a lot of circumstances together, and a voice within me saying, I don't want to fight this. So it was the end of the relationship with someone in Brussels, unfortunately. And she left. I was in the house, and I couldn't afford the house anymore. We were paying for the house of a double income. That was only my income, and I was working at a startup, and that was sold. And so all of a sudden, I was without a job. I was living in this big house, and the house owner was very linear, very very difficult. And I said, okay, I want to end the lease. This is not working for me. I can't pay for it. And he said, yeah, but according to this contract, you still need to pay me half a year of lease, and because you leave earlier, you get a penalty of 2 months. So you have to pay 8 months of lease. And I said, but you're not listening to me. I can't. He said, you need to pay 8 months. So I said, but that's the opposite of what I'm telling.
Right, right,
Why are we not seeing each other? What's happening? This is
right.
strange. He said, no, but this is the contract. Linear. This is this is the system, Perry. End of story. And something broke inside of me. I was like, okay, fuck it. You, sorry. Let's have it. Let's do this. And it was all gone. I gave it away. I said to him, well, you have my furniture, you have my cars, you have everything. I hope you will be very pleased with it. And that's it. And
Okay,
I
okay.
left.
So you're saying that when he asked you for 8 month rent, you actually gave, because you didn't have money, of course, so you gave him everything that you had as your 8 month payment, and you just left.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And and then something interesting happened because my ex-wife wanted to go back to the Netherlands. We were all living in Belgium. She wanted to go back to the Netherlands. So this was the perfect timing because when you lose everything, people think that you lose your voice as well. So it's the perfect opportunity to do something that I was always a little bit against. And I thought, she wants to go back to the Netherlands. Nothing seemed to work in my life. Yeah, everything was difficult. And I was like, okay, let it all go. Let's go back to the Netherlands. Let him have my cars. Let him have my furniture. He wants this. Have it. You have everything. It's fine. And then you're homeless. That's weird. That's very strange because there's something beautiful as well. It's freedom immediately. When you really lose everything, it's pure freedom.
Really? Okay. So first, okay. So I'm going to ask a technical question. Did you have any
Yes.
money in your wallet or not?
No, nothing.
Okay. So no money, nothing. You're
No,
basically,
because the landowner was very frustrated, so he blocked everything that I owned because he didn't like me doing this. He
oh,
didn't
wow.
agree with me, so he became even more angry.
Even though you got all the stuff. So because
Yeah,
in a way you're dumping it, so it becomes kind of like a little bit cleanup work for him. So maybe that's, you know what I mean?
he was very frustrated. Yeah.
Wow. But I'm actually, I mean, I'm having a hard time. Like when you thought about like doing that, I have to go back to that trigger because it's important for people to know, like, when you said that I'm just going to do this and walk out, you did not look back. Like you didn't second guess yourself.
No, no, because I've been preparing this for years.
Okay.
This I need to explain. I've always been curious about what it means to leave everything behind.
Oh, so you have been curious about it. Okay.
Oh yeah. So when the opportunity came, I took it. I was like, okay, I want to see what this is. So there was a preparation going on for years, really,
Subconsciously, you were kind of training this.
subconsciously. Yeah.
That's important because, yeah, because it is not something that I am curious about, but I can see that if you have been curious about, it's almost like the experience was waiting to converge with you in the
Yes.
right timing, right?
This
In the
was
right.
manifestation. This was manifestation.
Okay.
I
And
knew for me, manifestation means it's there, end of story,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
So the manifestation of that event was there, and it was just an intersection that happened. And that's why I was like, okay, this is it. And this is what I need to do.
Yeah. And this is such a good point for people to know because a lot of time, when you any kind of experience, like even the brain infection, even being homeless, or even having this octopus movement, all of this is your manifestation because you have been curious, you have been wanting it, you have been programming your subconscious. And that to me is one of the things that I like people to understand that, when of course when good things happens, like if you're about to get married or you find your lover, we say manifestation, right? And
Mm.
when that thing happens, like you're in a hospital, you say, yeah, my life sucks. I don't know why. But both of these experiences are duality. Like we are experiencing both of them because that's part of our manifestation. And we should just take the ownership. And that's one of the things that I like people to do is take the ownership of whatever it is, good, bad, ugly, because you created it, because you wanted it one way or the other. Right. And I think that that's why I have to go into that quantum being, right? I want people to understand that we need to own that. So then, okay, so I want to go back to your story. So
But
right.
can I say something
Yeah.
about this, which is very
Yes.
interesting,
Yes.
which I can relate to? I have three kids.
Okay.
My first two sons were born premature after 28 weeks. That's very stressful. That's very unexpected. That is chaotic. And but maybe that fits also into that manifestation. Not maybe, definitely. Because my
Definitely. And it
manifestation
is.
is my connection with my kids means everything to me. And that's my manifestation. I want to have a family that we're very close. We can talk about everything and we explore the world together in a very curious way. And being premature is such an amazing start. I was sitting in the hospital almost every evening with my first son. He was in the incubator. I would put my hand on his head in the incubator and read a book with my other hand, just because I could see his blood pressure being very stable and lower if I put my hand in the incubator. That was a lot of effort, I can tell you that. But the result is so much bigger.
Right.
The connection is huge, the connection is fantastic, and that's the manifestation, that connection. And the road towards that connection creates all kinds of interesting crossroads where you need to address that in a curious way again, right?
Exactly, exactly. And it's funny that you actually got them out a little sooner. So you get to do this bonding with them in your own way before they completely, it's
Hmm.
almost like, you kind of yeah, because generally they're in the womb of the mother. And you said, you know what, I want to have a little bit of my fatherhood also given to you before, you know what I mean? Like there are so many ways you can actually see that, right? I mean, there are so many ways you can look at that same experience and look at how positive it is, and you say, that's why we have the option, right, to move around in both
It's
directions.
interesting. It's very interesting, and and
Yeah.
that's why I don't like people that are very cynical. They're not happy and they see the world in a very negative way. And what happens with that manifestation? What's happening there? And do I need that? But when I go back to being homeless, one of the most interesting things that I've learned, that I needed to learn for the manifestation of creating a global movement like this, was during the homelessness, that the problem of being homeless was even bigger or more aware because of others. So I had hardship because I couldn't see my kids, which was horrible. And I had hardship because I had to stay with people and I didn't have my own place and I had to sleep on the floor or I had to sleep on the couch and I have to ask, can I have something to eat? It's horrible. So it was hardship. But then you discover that people around you can even make it more difficult for you. So you would expect when you hit rock bottom that people will come to you and say, you will get this, it's okay. But when you're in a situation that everybody fears about, they will walk away or they will push you even deeper. And there are always some exceptions, but you would expect more people not to help, but at least not make any more difficulty, right?
Mhm.
I don't even need help, but don't push me in even further, right? Don't start to argue with me. Don't start to fight with me. I had it with my own parents. At some point, I had to leave one house and said, "Okay, can you please leave? This is too much. Okay, I'm leaving. Going to my parents." And I stayed at my parents' place only for 1.5 days because my mother kicked me out. She was so angry with me. She couldn't stand what I was doing, and 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 that was a very interesting lesson when you turn things around. So when I in the creation of this global movement, the best jumpstart was that I wasn't listening to anyone, even though I'm very curious, so I wanted to know other people's opinion, but I trust my own gut feeling in what I needed to do, because I constantly had that little voice in my head during the homelessness that you want people to do what's best for you and you want to believe that as well. And it's in many times that's the situation as well, but in many times it's not the situation where people act just for themselves. And so at some point you need to just rely on yourself and your own manifestation and your own belief and just go for it. So that's my biggest lesson of being homeless that I still use in today's world when I have the movement has more than 5,000 members now. So sometimes people send me messages that are not so friendly. That happens, right? Or misunderstand something, and I can deal with that so well now. I'm just curious, and it's okay. It's so difficult to explain what exactly happens, but it's okay.
Yeah,
It's not relevant anymore.
especially considering that you experience such an extreme, right? Because, generally, I agree that when, you are the one who's responsible for your bread and butter, you're the one, if somebody gets mad at you, they're not paying your bills, right? So for the most part, it doesn't affect you like that. But in your case, since you went such an extreme where you were at the mercy of all these people who were not nice to you, so in a way that experience, right? Because having didn't have anything, so you were at the mercy of them to let you sleep or let you eat, right? And it made you vulnerable, and you saw that how people treat you differently depending on where you are. When you're a successful person, have everything that everybody thinks is a representation of success, right? Then they treat you because people are looking at, like, okay, this, because they're looking at your entire package, right, with everything that you have. And when you come to them so vulnerable and so without anything, like, people, and I can only think that they are either upset at you that how dare you get to do that and not me. That could be one option. The
Oh,
other is like,
definitely. Yeah.
how how dare you do that? Then you can get away with it, so I'll definitely make it hard for you, right? So there are all these different ways they're looking at you because you're showing them something that triggers them.
And another thing is, this is scientifically proven that when there's chaos and unexpected things are happening, for most linear thinkers, this is very difficult because anxiety is there immediately. So my homelessness creates anxiety with others
That's
because
true.
there is an unexpected event and they find it difficult to deal with because otherwise they need to go into their own mental state in understanding what's happening, and not everybody wants to go there, so then you keep everything very very nice, very organized, and then at least you know what's happening next week, next month, next year, so you don't have to question your own mental capacity, state, health, right? The conscious human goes into its own consciousness and its own thinking and being curious and trying to understand. And if you do that, you're very open to the unexpected. You're very open to whatever is happening, and you're not judgmental to others. But the opposite is also true. If you're not curious in your own thinking, then your first defense mechanism is being very judgmental towards others, because then it's at least not with you, right? That, oh,
Right.
that's no, 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 we're not doing that. That's not good, that we can't allow this. And
Yeah.
now my biggest thing in the Octopus movement, and that has developed in the last 2.5 years, and I just got a message from someone who wrote me a recommendation, and that this is exactly the thing that I'm very good at. I allow everybody to be who they are, and I'm so curious about all these different brains and beings. And it's first human, and then we create a system that works. So I allow everyone to be there without creating chaos, without, I do set boundaries, but there's no judgment. There's no judgment whatsoever from me. It's not necessary anymore. And that's what I enjoy, and that's why it's working so well in the Octopus movement, because there are a lot of weird, intelligent, strange human beings together, and I love that. But you need to be very nonlinear to organize that, because if you're linear and in a box, then it's, oh, that's, that goes too fast, or it's too intelligent, or it's too abstract, or it's too, there's always a judgment going on. And no.
Yeah. And the judgment are directly related to the trigger that you have internally, right? And if you understand that everybody is showing the part of mirror that you are not able to process within you, you're doing it processing through them, then it just makes you, then it eliminates the judgment. And even then you still have a choice, because people are mirror to you, right? So you don't have to necessarily, if there is a person that is not helping you evolve in the right way, then that mirror you don't have to process, and you just gracefully exit that relationship or exit that commitment, right? And there are many ways to do that, but you can gracefully do it, because I prefer to do graceful things than not, if I can help it.
I started a project. It's almost finished. You know about this Project 398, talking
Yes.
about numbers. It's a book, an art book with 398 nonlinear thinkers. 398 is an octopus, 3 hearts, 9 brains, 8 arms. And I remembered someone in the beginning very excited about this art project, and she wanted to help me. And at some point, she said to me, but Perry, there needs to be a system in the book. You need to organize this. I know writing books. This is how it works. And I said, no, that's not how we do it. No, you have to listen. Otherwise, I don't want to be involved. Otherwise, the quality is not good enough. Very linear. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be this way so I can predict the future in a way that it suits me. And I said to her, we're not doing this. We're not creating a system. It's about humans. I don't know where I will find them. I don't know how I will find them. but at some point we will find each other, manifestation. That comes into a book, manifestation, and that's going to be beautiful without creating QR codes that explains, the background of these writers. And I don't want to do that. And she was really upset with me, and she was maybe a little bit angry, and it's fine. And this is the beautiful thing that I understand now. I used to not understand, I used to think they don't understand me. And now I know they understand me. It's just not in line with how it suits for them. And she said, "No, I don't want to be involved." So it's okay, Um, too bad. I wish you would be involved, and but I understand. It's okay,
Yeah,
and and it
yeah.
still works, and we still WhatsApp with each other, and but not in that way because she believes that the project is not going to work if it's not exactly in line with certain rules or systems how an art book should be. And I'm thinking it's an art project. Are there any rules within art? Isn't that the beauty of art, that there are no rules? But okay.
Right, but because it's your vision, right? And the thing is that, like the whole linear and non-linear, right? I think it's like our way to make sense out of things because, in a way, we process information linearly. Because no matter when people say, I multitask, at a time, we focus attention on one, no matter what. You know that, right? And I
Yep.
think so that similar thing goes with linear. So a lot of time, and I think that what we have to do is embrace people for who they are, right? Because we're, remember, no judgment, non-linear thinking, right? So the thing is that people can make sense out of things in their own way when they create some sort of boundary, which is where the linear mindset comes, like time, right? Like, or space and time, right? It helps us make sense out of things. So we always orient all the information in a space and time. Truly, that is a linear thinking in its own way. But
Mm-hmm.
it creates the baseline for human to exist because when we go all over the other dimension, then that's when people take you to the mental hospital. I'm just kidding. They
True.
should not,
Yeah.
but they do. I mean, I'm just saying,
No, it's true. It's true.
right?
Yeah.
It's that's where the brilliance is actually is in that is in that zero point energy, is that space where there's nothing solidified. It's that space where I always think that how everybody has taken a position, like electron has taken a position when you see something in a matter, right? It's like it has taken a position, and all the place where they haven't taken a position, that's where the creation lies. That's
Mm-hmm.
where the unmanifestation lies, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where the magic lies. And sometimes we are like trying to just put like cover all the space. I'm like, no, 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 you want to let the room to breathe, the space in between.
One of my favorite sayings is that I love to be in the emptiness in between nonlinear thoughts. And it's the same with music. The emptiness in between notes creates the music. So if we can be in the emptiness in between nonlinear thoughts, meaning all over the place, and there's emptiness in between that, that's fascinating.
Yes. So
That's
you're saying the exact same thing I'm saying. Yes, that's
yeah,
exactly where we want to stay in.
yeah.
And I think that we need to teach others who are willing to understand that we all need to go there because it's time that we come out of this dense reality, right? Like the whole um, channels that we see, I mean, chaos that you mentioned earlier, right? I mean, that chaos is the reason we have so much, the what you resist persists, right? So look at the amount of chaos we already have right now going on Earth in different parts of the world. That chaos to me is our creation. And if
Mm-hmm.
we don't take responsibility for it, and if we keep doing this thing where like we give power to the power, one, by saying they, and then we say that, we're victim, they're asshole. When we keep on doing that, then we create that dichotomy between the two. And then what happens? Supply versus demand, it continues on that path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we agree with each other. And one of the sayings in the Octopus movement is, or our new mission statement is, we solve the unsolvable. We need this to go into the manifestation, to clean air, clean water, clean food. It's a little bit of a mess in a negative way on this planet, and we need to do something. And we need to do something is very easy. It's right in front of us. It's so simple. Sometimes I get a feeling that we need to solve climate change and it becomes all very complicated and difficult. And I keep thinking, no, but it's very easy and it's just right in front of us. It's so simple. And probably it's the emptiness in between nonlinear thoughts that is the solution, and everybody is a nonlinear thinker. So if we all go into that space, if we at least create some more balance in the world between linear and nonlinear thinking, we can solve the unsolvable and beautiful things will happen. And we need to do that.
I I
It's very
100%
simple.
I 100% agree. And of course, I haven't really, I just had one conversation with you where we got to know each other. And this is our second time speaking, and I'm getting to know you a little bit more deeper. So I actually am not sure what are all the problems you're solving in your movement, but I'm certainly very interested because I always have a idea on how I think that you should solve it, and you can take it or leave it. But I will always have a great suggestion because that's one of the thing. But one of the fundamental thing I believe is that people need to take responsibility for themselves before they can start helping others.
Hmm. Yeah. And therefore, I think the solution lies in the linear world. This I need to explain. So I started the Octopus movement very organically. Wow, these atypical thinkers are so cool. What happens if we bring them all together? Something will happen. That's the start, right? And now it's 2.5 years further. Oh, this is what we can do. We have a global think tank. We can solve the unsolvable. It's amazing how the system works within the Octopus movement. This is cool. Okay, so clean air, or clean water. Let's solve that mystery. Let's do something here. And the solution is not the nonlinear thinking. It's the empty space in between. So I need to create that empty space in between. So I already have the nonlinear thinking. And then the empty space is developed by the linear world. I saw this
Exactly.
documentary where the Sahara Desert is the source of nutrients for the rainforest. I love that. When I saw that, I was like, what? Let's rewind this. I want to know more. So the dried up fish bone material in the sand of the Sahara Desert goes up in the air, Gulf streams, wind streams, whatever is the right term, and then it falls down with rain in the rainforest. So many nutritional materials are in the rain of the rainforest coming from the sky, and it's not in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And the source is the driest place on earth. So the driest place on earth is the source of nutrients for the lungs of the earth. How awesome is that? And and that's how I see what we're doing. We created the Brain Forest Alliance, which is the linear part of the Octopus movement. Those are companies that are coming in, they're a sponsor or they want to be a member of the Brain Forest Alliance, and they say, okay, we want to do something, but we don't know what it is. But we understand we need different thinking in order to survive the next decade. We need different nonlinear thinking to solve big issues. I want to be there, and I don't know exactly how. So they come into the Brain Forest Alliance, they're a sponsor, they make a donation, or they have a membership fee. It's all very linear. So that's the linear part. Here's the nonlinear part, and then the empty space in between
Mm-hmm.
is going to solve the unsolvable.
Right, right. But in order to bring it to flourishment in this physical reality, yeah, you do have to do a quantum collapse, which is where the
Of
linear
course. Yeah.
step-by-step process comes into place. Yeah.
Otherwise, you just have a bunch of
Otherwise, you're
weirdos
just,
talking to each
yeah,
other, and then nothing happens.
exactly, because then you don't want to live in a crowd, which is why nonlinear is a good starting point, but not necessarily good ending point, because you want to get somewhere from that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, wow. So that is pretty cool. And I guess I'll definitely uh, find out how I can serve there. So I know we've been talking for a while. So you tell, well, you tell me, because this in this interview I wanted to just get an idea of what started it, where you are, where you're going, and if you would like, definitely leave your information so I can share with others in terms of people how they can get a hold of you if they're interested in participating in any event, all of that good stuff. But what would you like to say to sum it all up?
Yeah, then I like to say I have nothing to say. You know, this is
If, okay, so,
I think this is what I find the most beautiful thing that happened in the past 2.5 years. That it happened by itself, that I never had to explain. I love to sell the idea because this is my passion. So I love talking about this. But it's never in a way of convincing people that this is the solution. I just share my thoughts and I share what I see, and it resonates with people, and they join the Octopus movement, they join the think tank, they become a founding member or an ambassador or a teacher, or they join the team within the nonprofit. It's so organic that I almost have nothing to say, that it resonates almost by itself for people like this. And I've seen that so many times that I got messages from people saying to me, I don't even exactly remember how I joined the movement or why I joined the movement, but thank you so much that I finally found my tribe.
wow.
And for me that's it. You know, that it's, yeah, almost like a surprise. Like, oh, that octopus, that resonates with me. Nonlinear thinking. I don't understand shit, but let's dive into this. This is interesting. And then all of a sudden you're in a space with people that understand each other, and you can be yourself, and you don't have to mask. You can go fast, you can go slow, you can just share your thoughts, even though it's in a way that normally is not always accepted because it goes too fast, or it goes from left to right, top to bottom, and all of a sudden it's possible. And then also with all that energy, something good comes out of that. We teach at schools. I go to universities. I teach students about nonlinearity, that the education system is wonderful, but there's also something else. I'm giving a speech by the end of the month for Peace Jam. That's a nonprofit organization for the Peace Nobel Peace Prize winners, like the Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama has a new documentary about himself being a different thinker and being very interested in science. So they asked me if I could do a speech for um, the participants in Peace Jam, teenagers, to explain different thinking, to explain how I see this. And then there's my speech, and then we go to the documentary of the Dalai Lama. That's awesome, right? That's then it's in line. So what do I want to say? You know, I I'm talking a lot, but I don't have anything to say. You know
But
what
I
I
think
mean?
you already said it. Like you pretty much said that you are, since you are gathering the tribe full of nonlinear thinkers, you want people to non-linearly find their tribe, and if that ends up being in the tribe that you are in, then that's good, wherever that tribe is, because if they think linearly, then they're defeating the purpose.
Yeah,
So yeah, so you
very
kind of
well
said
said.
it.
Thank you so much. And this is in line with something I always say. I'm so proud we don't have any rules. We don't have any rules. So is this for nonlinear thinkers? It's for humans, and I think all humans are nonlinear thinkers. So it's for everyone. There are no rules. You join us. It's for free. You can choose what you want to do. If you want to swim with the other octopi, or, and I know that the correct plural is octopuses. Don't send any messages, people, but I just love octopi because it sounds like apple pie. And um, you can just choose what you want to do, and it's fine. You know, join us.
Yeah, because the whole idea is that you get to play as a nonlinear thinker and you get to be encouraged as a nonlinear thinker. So, yeah, well, this is good. I think that we are wrapping up for today. We will have more convergence later, but this is good to see that how, you know, Perry kind of touched on the very fact that his quest for experiencing, his curiosity to experience certain event ended up leading him to all these different places, and then it ended up bringing him to where he is doing something that he would have never imagined as part of his linear thinking, but he subconsciously was grooming that to kind of to give everybody permission to be nonlinear and actually still have a tribe and still have people who believes in you and still have that community and purpose. So I think that is a good way to show up in the world where you walk and people sees that you are living what you're preaching.
And then you're in a Zoom together with you, and then this is happening here. And 2.5 years ago, I was standing in line with other people who are homeless. How beautiful is life, right? How awesome is this?
Exactly. And where it brings you. And when you see that, and then you see that how all of those quantum steps you had to take to get there, then you realize that, everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to get you here. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
that is the most beautiful part of that. And with that, we would leave everyone for now and have a wonderful day. And we'll talk to you later. I'm going to go ahead and stop it.